Election day is coming up, and education is going to be one of the central issues in these midterm races. But there are 4 races in 4 different states where I think education is going to be a particularly important thing to focus on. My name is Kevin Mankin, and I'm a senior writer at the 74. I'm going to start with the Arizona governor's race. You've got a statewide Democrat, Katie Hobbs, who's the Secretary of State. She's an elections official in Arizona, and she's running against a political newcomer, Kari Lake. She's considered something of a local Trump emulator in Arizona. What's interesting in terms of education is what's already happened in Arizona this year. The state legislature voted to massively expand the state's program offering education savings accounts. So the next governor is going to be in the position of overseeing a huge policy shift that's going to make Arizona maybe the #1 state in the country for school choice. In Michigan, we've got an endangered Democratic incumbent governor, Gretchen Whitmer, fighting for a second term against her Republican opponent, Tudor Dixon, who's something of a political newcomer. There are really interesting education facets in this race, in part because Betsy DeVos, who formerly was the Secretary of Education, is a very politically connected donor in Michigan and is pushing for a big school choice expansion this year. In Florida, you've got probably the most prominent non-national politician in the country. You've got Ron DeSantis. As DeSantis looks headed to victory against his Democratic rival, Charlie Crist, who was formerly the governor, he is running substantially on education. He's built a profile as a kind of culture warrior. DeSantis passed the so-called Don't Say Gay bill, which bans instruction on gender identity and sexual orientation through the 3rd grade. Over the summer in particular, the governor endorsed 30 different school board candidates. This is something that in general you don't see governors doing. Of those 30 school board candidates, 20 of them ended up winning their races outright. Another handful are going to runoffs. For the final race that I'm looking at, I want to point you to the congressional campaign in Connecticut's 5th congressional district. It's really the most right-leaning part of a very blue state. And there you've got an incumbent Democrat, Jahana Hayes. She was a former Teacher of the Year. She was a really prominent advocate for education. She is being pursued by George Logan, who is something of a moderate Republican as these things go. George Logan has, in some interviews, TV interviews, print interviews, talked about the need for parents to escape top-down mandates from state and federal authorities. So that is also playing as a theme in this race. One thing I'd be watching in the last few days of this cycle are simply the fact that polling has kind of turned against Democrats over the last few weeks and months. So we should be expecting something of a Republican turnout edge on Election Day.